Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. That fellow that you just heard is Bryan, and I'm Johnny Cash. Uh, I'm I'm Morris, and this is Dream Idiots, where each week Bryan and I take turns telling each other stories from history, from current events, from our own personal, sordid, sad lives, and then we provide you with a curse word of the week. Bryan, how are you? And what's up? And where can the folks find us?
I'm doing great. We've trundled into the March of May. We are apparently we're at war now. So there's that.
Yep.
No comment. I just can't comment on it. But we do appreciate you listening and sharing and tagging along for us. If you can, give us a review on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can check us out at Dream Idiots and find all of our most recent episodes. The whole back catalog lives there. If you can, go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and shoot us a review and give us 5 stars. That's always helpful. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and then tell your friends, share our stuff. We'd love to have a grow the audience even more. We had a nice little spike of traffic here in the last 10 days or 2 weeks, which is always gratifying. So we appreciate you tagging along.
Yes, and it has been gratifying to see that. I think the new format is working out well when we take turns. And as we do take turns, Bryan, you get the odd episodes for now, and you get 167, as the kids say. Episode 167. You get to go
uh,
first. So, what do you have for us this week?
well, I decided this week I had worked quite a bit on another story that I had intended to use for Black History Month. That is a super interesting story and pretty compelling, but it was just wound up being kind of soul crushing. To talk about a story related to Black history and the Civil War and slavery. And with us now going to war, I just couldn't muster the
Mhm.
emotional whatever it took to execute fully on it. So I still have a little more research on that story, and we'll probably tell it down the road. If you want a good read or good, interesting tale, look up a man named Big Jacob, who was a slave during the 1830s and 1840s, and mostly in Alabama. He has a very interesting story, which I will probably tell at some point later on in this year. So recently, I was out driving around doing my other job, and driving around north of San Antonio and the I-35 corridor between Austin and San Antonio, as you can well attest, Morris, is an unmitigated nightmare most of the time. It has to be
Hmm.
one of the worst highways in Texas, if not the U.S. It is a clusterfuck of people, and it is always under construction. And one day here, very recently, I was driving south down 35, headed back to San Antonio, and had one of those delightful moments where you hear the high-pitched whine coming from behind you and realize, oh shit, it's about to happen. And there are two guys on motorcycles, and
Oh, no.
someone. It's always someone driving like a 2002 Toyota Tercel going 90 miles an hour. The last car I want to go want to go at speed in, and one of these motorcycles, zip misses my rear bumper by 18 inches, and they're drag racing down, and it's whatever 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's a little bit stressful. That gets your heart pumping. I decided, I'm going to move over to the right a little bit. I start to change lanes and nearly hit one of those damn smart cars, those little things that are, scarcely larger than a golf cart.
You have those there now? I wasn't aware.
Oh,
Yeah.
smart cars have been around for a while. Yeah, I actually
Mm.
I had a friend in Austin who drove a smart car and loved it, but the thing was so small. She actually bought the trailer hitch component. There's a specialized smart car trailer because she couldn't go grocery shopping and drive this car because there's no room in
Mm.
this car.
Yeah.
So I nearly killed this person, like, and they honked at me and flicked me off. Okay, great. And so I, again, a little bit stressed. Nearly had a car accident. Then managed to get off the highway. So Austin Highway on the northeast side of town. I'm, slower speed, trundling down Austin Highway, and reach the intersection of Austin Highway and Lanark Drive, which you
Hmm.
you may recall.
Yep.
It's not a cross street. I come up to a stoplight there and look over, and there's a man. He's the first car in the turn lane there, facing north. There's no
Hmm.
way to turn left. He's waiting to do a U-turn, and he is sitting in what I could only describe as either a bumper car or a go. I don't know what he's sitting. He's sitting in a car. that his from nipples up are sticking out of what should be the sunroof of this car. It is basically the size of an office chair. And he's sitting in it with a baseball cap on and sunglasses on, signaling left with his arm.
Okay.
He's driving a toy in traffic,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
basically. Like I am living in bizarro world. I'm waiting for dwarves or clowns or something to come or elephants to come running. I'm going home now. But that inspired me to circle back way back when on episode 125, you did an episode on the worst cars.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Uh-huh.
So we're gonna revisit some more shitty cars over the
Oh, all right.
last many decades. And I realized as I was researching this, car journalism is one of the best little niches of these writers
Oh,
love
it's great. Yeah, it's great.
can get into this, and they can be just incredibly and hilariously mean in
Hmm.
in their reviews of some of these cars. So more terrible cars from Dream Idiots.
Oh, awesome.
So 1949 to 1953, Triumph
Hmm.
had a vehicle called the Mayflower. The Triumph Mayflower was basically an attempt on Triumph's part to build a luxury small car. And as the name suggests, they were trying to appeal to the U.S. market.
Hmm.
And it's the body of it was very. I mean, you see a picture of it and you go, "Oh, they're trying to rip off either a Bentley or a Rolls Royce."
Sure.
And you've obviously done stories on Rolls Royce as well. So it looks kind of like a Rolls Royce, sort of the front end of a Rolls Royce Silver Dawn, but it's way smaller, and so the proportions are all way out of
Hmm.
out of whack. It looks it's like the bastard stepchild of a Rolls Royce and one of the UK's black cabs, which I think are Aston Martins. Uh, but the body's also really heavy and has a small motor, so it's very underpowered and slow. Had a top speed of 63 miles an hour. So you floor it and top out at 63. James May from who James May is.
He's one of those guys on one
Those
of those car shows, right?
car shows
Yeah.
called it the ugliest car ever built, saying about it, quote, its details are ugly, the overall proportions are ugly, its very concept as a car to appeal to Americans who believe they were directly descended from the Pilgrim Fathers makes one shudder. The Triumph Mayflower. And also in the 1950s, the Nash Austin Metropolitan. I don't think I've
Hmm.
ever, I don't recall these much at all.
Now the
The
Nash Rambler was the big model was the Nash Rambler
the
was the big
Rambler,
model.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Nash Metropolitan was one of the first attempts by a U.S. car maker to produce a small car. This was the kind of the first ever car marketed as your family's second car. I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, most families only had the one car.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, I recall mid 70s, late 70s when we finally got the second car. Compared to other cars of the era, it was way more luxurious. So again, as with the first car, it's sort of a big car in miniature. I look vaguely like the front end. I mean, you take a 57 Chevy and you cut it in half.
Hmm.
Huge hood, front seat, and then the back just just kind of vanishes off the back end. And it was advertised as a motorized shopping cart for affluent urban gals. Stuff.co.nz included it in its list of shitty cars, saying, quote, designed to conquer the U.S. market by combining Nash styling with British small car mechanicals and innovation, the Metropolitan was an abject failure, being the worst of both worlds. The Renault Dauphine
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
was a North American version of this particular car. It was it was actually wildly successful in Europe. It was kind of a
Hmm.
modern economy car, more or less. It got just god awful reviews in the U.S. because it had it featured poor performance, but at least it had poor reliability as well. A period review in Road and Track found that the Delphine took its its 0 to 60 time was, care to guess?
2 minutes.
32 seconds.
Okay.
Not
It's
good.
better than I
Not good.
thought.
Writer Dan Neal, who I'm quoting, so Dan Neal is vicious and hilarious, uh, said, quote, put the Delphine at a severe disadvantage in any drag race involving farm equipment.
Yes.
The Renault 8 was the later version of the Delphine. Its successor was marketed as, quote, the Renault for people who swore they would never buy another Renault. Sort of the most famous of the train wreck cars of the 50s was, of course, the
The
Edsel.
Edsel. Yeah.
Right, right.
Hmm.
It was hyped like crazy, named after Henry Ford's son, and they spent $400 million in investing in marketing just to promote this ridiculous vehicle, trying to compete with Mercury, but also Buick and Oldsmobile. But it was marketed as this radically different car, but it failed to impress the public at all. It had actually had some cool new technology, and it had self-adjusting brakes, had automatic lubrication, whatever the fuck that is. And those are things that would be adopted in many other cars down the road. But I mean, it became synonymous with failure. It generated losses between 250 and 350 million dollars, and it just bankrupted a ton of Ford dealers nationwide. Time magazine had it on its list of the 50 worst cars of all time, with again Dan Neal writing that while the Edsel was not a bad car, quote, it was the first victim of Madison Avenue hyperhype.
Hmm.
Ford's marketing mavens had led the public to expect some plutonium-powered pancake-making wonder car, but what they got was a Mercury. The LA Times included it on its list of top 10 worst cars sold in the U.S., calling it a redecorated Mercury that had been beaten with an ugly stick. The legendary flop of all automotive flops. The Edsel had the grill sort of looks like a horse collar,
That's
and it
one
was
word for it.
yeah, well,
Hmm.
I'm about to reference what I think you're alluding to.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Ridiculed for looking like a toilet seat, also looking like female genitalia.
Hmm. Hmm.
And one sarcastic description of the Edsel said that it looked like a Mercury pushing a toilet seat, an Oldsmobile sucking a lemon, and the tail lamps were also criticized because they looked like ingrown toenails.
Ooh. I recall one time I was I was listening, eavesdropping on some conversations by my mom's family, her brothers and various cousins and stuff. And they're talking about somebody in town, I wouldn't trust him. He bought an Edsel. It was used as a slam on people who was like, he
Right.
had, he didn't have
He's
any sense.
he's one of them.
Yeah. It's bad enough he bought a Ford, but
Next one, the Subaru. Subarus are great cars these days, but when they first came around, they were dog shit. The Subaru 360 was hugely, made tons of money and was very popular in Japan. Malcolm Bricklin started importing it into the U.S. because he discovered it was super cheap to do so because the cars were so damn light. They were exempt from U.S.
oh,
automotive
the
safety
tonnage.
standards,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because they only weighed, whatever, 1,500 pounds or something crazy.
Yeah.
It had an MSRP of $1,300. It was marketed with the slogan "Cheap and ugly does it." The 360, well, again, complete failure in North America. Car and Driver, in one review, called it one of the ugliest cars in history, and quote, the most bulbous bubble ever to putt putt.
Yeah.
It remained.
This would have
Go
been
ahead.
in the 60s, right? Mid 60s when they brought him
Well,
over.
late 68 to 70.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
It remains one of the worst vehicles reviewed in Consumer Reports. Its 0 to 60 time was 37 and a half seconds. Uh, Consumer Reports said that the car was dangerously structurally deficient in a 30-mile-an-hour crash test, and that its bumpers were, quote, virtually useless against anything more formidable than a watermelon. All of which made the public, just again, incredibly unsafe car to ride in or drive. The end of the review says, quote, it was a pleasure to squirm out of the car, slam the door, and walk away. Imports ceased in 1970, and a bunch of the 360s just remained unsold and just were in stock, were in inventory for years. leading Bricklin to attempt to start a series of go-kart races. Maybe that's the car I saw out on Austin Highway, using Subarus as racing cars. And there's also urban legends that insist that a number of the 360s were crushed and just thrown overboard, in the ocean. I guess maybe on their way over, like, oh, stop bringing them over here. We can't sell
Hmm.
them, so just give it up. In 1970s, the Vaz 2101. This is a car that was mostly known as the Lada. Ever heard of the Lada
Hmm.
before? Okay,
Yeah.
so the Lada,
It's a Russian car, right? Or Russian or
yeah,
Polish?
so
Russian?
made
Russian?
in Russia, but
Yeah.
it's basically a slightly more rugged version of the Fiat 124. And so again, whenever car makers try to market the same car like six different ways, it always fails. It's just a terrible idea that they have never ever learned. And it got just again crappy reviews. Uh, Mostly because it's awful design, terrible technical layout, poor build quality. Jeremy Clarkson, also a
Hmm.
well-known
Top
car
Gear.
dude,
Yeah.
Top Gear, called it quote simply the worst, simply the worst car in the world. He went on to say, quote, I don't know where the car I drove was made or who made it, but I suspect he was very angry about something because it was horrific. The steering column appeared to have been welded to the dashboard so that it wouldn't turn. The brakes caused the car to speed up a bit and turn left violently at the same time. It's like a cockroach. It could survive nuclear blast. It's amazingly tough. It can stand up to hammer blows, but not water. The engine was designed to run on Russian petrol, which has an octane rating of 76. That's not really petrol, that's just spicy water. Again, a crappy car that should never have been built. One of my favorite cars, which I would just love to drive even once, the Reliant Robin. Ever heard of this one? This is
Well,
a British
I want
car.
to no, I know a Reliant. I've heard that name, but I don't think I've heard of the Robin.
Okay. So the Robin was technically around from 73 all the way to 2002. It
Technically, that's not
technically,
good.
right.
Yeah.
It was a three-wheeled
Oh, Jesus, that
sport
thing.
car. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. The one that
And I
Mr.
mean,
Bean drives?
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it was, it had a good track record for about 30 years. But again, as with the Subaru that was so light, it was cheap. British tax loopholes allowed these cars to be taxed as motorcycles, and you could actually drive them legally with only a motorcycle license, not a full driver's license. So
That's weird.
they were cheap and shittily made.
Here in the
And
States, you could do that?
no, in the UK.
Okay. All right.
And so, I mean, again, stays very popular into the 1980s. Then they try to roll out a replacement and call it the Reliant Rialto, but they had to back out and just start calling it the Robin again because the name was so popular. So in '89 they went back to the Robin name, and it lived on until 2002. Again, becomes the butt of just tons of jokes. Had a weird fiberglass body shell, this primitive, old-fashioned design. It was nicknamed the Plastic Pig, and Clarkson, rather famously in Top Gear, featured it one time and managed to roll it like three times in one episode because it's
Yeah.
so
It had a tendency to tip over, right? Because
yeah
of
because yeah
it's like the three-wheeled ATVs that finally got phased
right
out that just,
right
yeah.
right yeah yes
Horrible.
incredibly stupid. A couple more here. The Austin Allegro was from 1973. It tended to be it's kind of a clean sheet design by British Leland. It looks a ton like a Saab to me, but again, poor quality, odd styling, terribly unreliable. In the book Crap Cars, which I have to go order this book, writer Richard Porter says the only bit of the Allegro they even got vaguely right was the rust proofing. Again, just a terrible car. Jeremy Clarkson compares the Allegro to the Morris Marina, and he actually kind of likes the Allegro at least a little bit, compared at least to the Marina. Clarkson further said of the Allegro that it was hideously ugly, and that whoever proposed he hated it. It actually has a slightly squared off steering wheel, sort of a rounded square
Hmm.
for the steering wheel, which is just
No,
ridiculous.
that's the way my new Solterra is. My Solterra
Oh, really?
screen was like that. It's kind of you got to get used to it, but once you get
Uh,
used to it, it's like,
it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
This car, Clarkson claims, was actually more aerodynamic going backwards because it has sort of the wedge shape on the rear, but has a very not flat windshield, but very close
Mm,
to flat, just like a Saab does, right?
hmm.
From 74 to 78, there was the ill-conceived Ford Mustang II, which is a terrible car
Oh yeah, yeah.
based loosely on the Pinto, actually. It was like
Uh-huh.
had a
Yeah.
Pinto chassis. Uh, Eric Peters wrote of the Mustang II in his book, Automotive Atrocities, The Cars We Love to Hate. Reeling, wild eyed, and increasingly desperate in the wake of the 73 oil crisis and the new emission requirements from the EPA, Ford belched up the Pinto sourced, downsized Mustang II, a car with all the kick of a watered down Shirley Temple. And it was, of course, instantly appalling to all Mustang owners everywhere.
As it
And
should
fine,
be.
but yeah. And finally, last but not least, I actually drove one of these cars one time in, you know, right when I got my license, mid 80s, late 80s, the Yugo. Ever
Oh,
drive one?
I no, I didn't. But I heard stories.
So Yugo came from Yugoslavia. It was just panned. Had a list price of 39.90. Shitty performance, poor quality build. It was incredibly unsafe, and it was the butt of jokes for
Oh yeah,
years.
still is. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just talking to one of my kids about it the other day. It's like
Uh,
we're not going to get you a Yugo, and they're like, "What the hell's a Yugo?" I
what
was
the
like,
hell's a Yugo?
I'll show you a picture when we get home because it's yeah.
It was on the cover of a February 1986 issue of Consumer Reports. Basically, I remember this ad: a Yugo being stared down by a Peterbilt truck with the caption, "How much car do you get for 39.90?" And the review described the car as barely assembled, as a quote, barely assembled bag of nuts and bolts, saying that a used car was 100% a better buy. In the year 2000, Car Talk actually voted it the worst car of the millennium. I'm sure that's a well earned. On Time Magazine's list of 50 worst cars of all time, CNN's list of most questionable cars of all time, and then Dan Neal, who I've quoted now several times, called it the Mona Lisa of bad cars with the distinct feeling of being sorry, I started laughing. Had the distinct feeling of being assembled at gunpoint. Just a terrible,
Probably not
terrible.
that far off.
And Chinese car companies are now talking about entering the U.S. market. So you'll see Yugo cited as kind of the model for some of those what the Chinese makers are making these days in China for their obviously gigantic population. But some of those cars are going to start coming over here and be somewhat reminiscent, I guess. One of those cars also the Daihatsu, which I think is now long gone,
Yeah, yeah, I
was
remember the
also
Daihatsu. Yeah.
a tiny tiny car. Jeremy Clarkson drove a Yugo 45, also on on Top Gear, and called it a hateful, hateful car. He eventually destroyed it with a tank and said that its performance was so bad you'll get overtaken by wildlife. So anyway, just something silly and
Oh, I'm glad
making
you
us laugh.
revisited that topic because that's one of my I think I used Dan Neal as my only source because I found a great
Oh,
article
did
by
you?
him.
Okay.
He is hilarious.
Yeah, he
Um,
kind of a
yeah,
bitch, but in a really good way. He's funny
he
as shit.
rips through those. So just a couple notes on my end. Um, if it weren't for when I was a kid and we'd come out to Colorado, the Subaru that you see today everywhere in Colorado,
Mm.
that was a Saab back in the 70s and 80s. And
Oh, okay.
you will still see people, yeah, Subarus are great, but man, I sure miss the Saab, because you saw them all. It was a good mountain car. You just saw it all over the place. And occasionally
Well,
you'll still,
they were diesel too, aren't they?
yeah, you'll see the vintage Saabs here and there.
Right.
And, it's just a mountain car and it's Swedish and it was great.
Bulletproof.
I mean, yeah, it was great. Um, One of my kids has taken to really making fun of the new Rivians. You
Hmm.
see the electric with the goofy
Ridiculous.
looking with the
Right.
goofy looking. Every time one comes around the corner, and the lights are on, he just go, "Eh!" And it's like, okay, dude. Um, and today I was walking one of our two dogs. I was walking the more I'm not going to say one of my dogs is dumb, but one is definitely smarter. I
Hmm.
was walking the smarter dog, and she saw a Tesla truck,
Hmm.
and even she had to stop and like perk her ears up and go, "What the fuck is that?" And she just stared at it like I have never seen anything like that. I mean, she was more comfortable with my 57 T-Bird and going, okay, I know what that is. That's a car. It's a funny shaped car. But when she saw that Tesla truck,
Like,
she kind of
what?
backed up and her ears went up and
WTF?
she was
Right.
like, what the hell is that? But I see those things and they are just it's like designed by Ms. Hindenshot's third grade art class. I mean, just awful.
Yeah.
It's what a little kid's idea of a future car looks like and just
Looks like
bad.
the world's most painful suppository on wheels. But yeah,
Speaking of painful
dreadful.
suppository, no. Thanks, Brian. That's
Yeah.
always fun to look at bad cars. If I had the time and inclination and the places to put them, I'd go back and I'd buy a Morris Minor and I'd buy a Franklin, just so I had a Morris and a Franklin. Um, Ready for the curse word of the week?
I'm ready. Go.
Brian, I'm going to return to that font of wisdom that has given me many great curse words of the week, my family. Specifically, one of my uncles who uses this as an interjection. Do you remember what an interjection is from Schoolhouse Rock?
Oh shoot.
Interjections,
Rejection.
so
Oh yeah,
excitement.
yeah, yeah.
Um, are set aside by an exclamation point or by a comma when the feeling's not as strong. He used this word as an interjection. And this word it's one word, and it's basically used when you substitute it for bullshit when you
Hmm.
can't say bullshit in polite company. And that word is bull roar.
Huh. Okay.
Bull, ROAR, bull roar. So you're watching a tight football game, and the coach, for example, decides to go for it in his own territory on 4th and 3 and misses. Bull roar. Or you say something he doesn't agree with politically, bull roar. Or you're his partner in 42 and you go set, and he gets up and slams the domino down and says, bull roar. It can be used in any variety of way where you're not quite happy with the situation, but you really can't come out with what you really want to say. So I don't know
Yeah.
where he got it, and he's the only person I know that uses it. Maybe he got it from one of his coworkers, but every now and then I'll pull that one out of the family deck of cards of curse words.
Right.
Bull roar.
Yeah, I like that.
That interjection standing in for bullshit.
So it's sort of like bollocks.
Yeah, bullocks. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit recently, I realized that in more polite company, when I want to say bullshit, I'll say bollocks, which is saying bullshit in the UK. But over here, people go, "What?"
Oh, is that what it is? I thought it was balls.
It is,
Okay.
but in the UK they say bollocks. I mean that's complete bollocks. Da, 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 da. Unless of course it's the dog's bollocks, in which case it's good. Remember that was the joke with
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, dog's bollocks. It's like the
Right,
cat's ass. Yeah,
right, right,
what is it with the hind end of pets that ranks as highly?
right.
Well, is
Bull
it the
roar.
cat's ass or is the dog's bullocks? It's both. It's the monkey's nads. It's awesome. It's fantastic. All
Bull
right.
roar. I like it.
Um, this was a lighter episode, Brian, and I
Yeah,
appreciate it. This was
needed
much
to laugh at
kinder and
something.
gentler. Yes, we did. And we'll get back into it next week. I've got a lovely little story from World War II for next week.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for listening, folks. Again, check out dreammediates.com. Give us a like, give us a share, subscribe. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Drop us a line if you want. Dreamidiotspodcast at Gmail. Shoot us a curse word or a story idea if you've got them. And we appreciate you hanging in there with us.
Yes, sir. And be good to each other, especially now, because we thought they were rough. They're getting rougher. Bye.